City is Rick Lazio and his new running mate, Chautauqua County Executive Greg Edwards. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Great to be on, Liz.
It's great to talk to you. Thank you.
So, Greg, I'd like to start with you because up until this point, I would say most people in the state had no idea who you were. This is the first time a lot of people, with the exception of Chautauqua folks, are getting a look at you. Why do you believe that you can be Lieutenant Governor, and why do you want the job?
Well, there's an interesting question that you mentioned. You talk about just Chautauqua County, and what you'll discover, I think, very quickly is that I've worked very closely with people from around the state, particularly in the New York State Association of Counties, other county execs around the state, and I have a close relationship with people in the region around Chautauqua County. But in addition to having already had those experiences, county government is the service arm of New York State. We're tasked with providing the services, with evidenced by the fact that 87% of a county's budget is typically involved in serving and delivering the services of the state. So I'm very familiar with state obligations, and an executive role is an executive role. My job is to prepare budgets, to work with a myriad of people delivering a large number of services and answering the questions that come up on a daily basis.
So we should probably say, just to give people a little bit of background, you come from a dairy farming family. You were first elected in 2006. You were reelected last year with almost 65% of the vote, 64 and change. You're obviously a Republican in a rural area of the state. The executive leadership role, Rick, is that the main reason why you picked Greg after what you said in your release when you announced this election wasn't a, quote, exhaustive search?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons why Greg Edwards was the ideal choice and will be a great lieutenant governor for New Yorkers. First of all, I would say if there's one thing that we have learned from this past Tuesday's elections, it's that people are rejecting candidates that step forward out of political expediency and opportunism, that watch out for their own political career, and they're embracing candidates that have principle and character. And so I looked at Greg Edwards, I looked at his record. This is a person who has grown up on a dairy farm. He's known the meaning of hard work. He's a good family man. He has been a great county executive. He's cut taxes, property taxes, every year that he's been county executive. He's consolidated agencies. He's worked with the unions. He's gotten the job done. It's what people need in Albany. He's an honest, good man with character. And it also sends a great signal from the furthest part of the state in Chautauqua County all the way to the eastern end of Long Island out in Montauk. We're joining the state together. This is a unity ticket at a time when this state desperately needs to come together. We bring together between the two of us urban, rural, and suburban areas. We've got the background as a federal background. We've got local executive leadership. We've got law enforcement background. We've got experience in solving problems at all levels of government. Neither one of us have been an Albany insider, so don't look to either one of us to be part of that Albany cocktail circuit and be part of all the entrenched special interests that are, I think, torpedoing the state's fiscal situation. Look for us to come with a fresh set of eyes and hands to try and address these problems in a straightforward way, reduce spending, balance budgets, create jobs, lower taxes, and restore some sense of faith that there's integrity back in state government.
Okay, but to that end, when we get to the selection process, I mean, certainly it's not lost on observers that you are up against a county executive, Steve Levy, for the nod, the GOP nod, and you have selected a county executive. You don't have any executive experience yourself. You are a former congressman.
Well, I've got private sector executive experience.
Well, but not in the public sector, right? You've never been elected to an executive position, so there's that now you have a ticket mate who has that experience. But when you talk about the exhaustive search, can you talk about the vetting process? Because we have seen this position of lieutenant governor. At one point, the joke was that David Patterson would make, I would get up in the morning, pick up the phone and call Elliot Spitzer, make sure he was still breathing, and when he said hello, hang up and go back to sleep. I mean, that was the job. That's a joke that David Patterson used to make. Now we see that actually being lieutenant governor means you really are a scandal or a heartbeat away from leading the state. How did you determine, how much vetting did you do, what kind of vetting did you do, and how did you determine that Greg Edwards was the guy who should be that guy for you?
Listen, I had certain principles that I was looking for. Number one, it had to be somebody who was competent enough to stand in if something should happen to me as governor, who had the skill set and the experience and the competence to do the job. Number two, I'm not looking for a figurehead. Greg Edwards will be a substantive part of this administration. He'll have a significant management role, and he will bring his experience and his talent to help improve New York. I was looking for that. I was looking for somebody whose background and record screamed out character and integrity.
Well, how many people
somebody who was a solid person.
How many people did you interview?
Well, listen, the main thing here, Liz, is that we went through a solid process. I ended up turning to somebody who I thought was the best possible choice for all the reasons that I'm laying out. I mean, Greg Edwards is a good man. We're going to be focused on job creation. If there's one thing that Greg Edwards understands, is the challenge that Western New Yorkers are facing and upstate New Yorkers are facing, and he's going to be a partner to focus on job creation, economic development, lowering spending, and getting the job done for New Yorkers, ending the soap opera in Albany, and restoring a sense of faith that we've got grown-ups back in charge.
Okay, but to that end, I mean, the soap opera that you bring up, did you do a background check? I mean, you know, we've seen some pretty significant scandals that are allegations made against the current governor who used to be lieutenant governor. Are you sure that none of that, with all due respect, Greg, sorry, but none of that is in anybody's background is going to be embarrassing the state going forward?
Well, I got to tell you, Liz, if I can jump in, is that it was, from my view, exhaustive. And I had many conversations with Rick. I met with any number of his staff. I spent a lot of time in vetting interviews and completed every request they had for written submissions. And I was impressed with the level of their questions. And I was also pleased to answer them. And I didn't have any problem answering those or any of the other questions that they would ask of me. My desire was to be a partner with Rick in this operation, change the way that New York State's doing business, focus on what's important to people, and that's doing the job. Showing up every day, working hard, and putting the focus back on serving the people of New York State instead of the dysfunction and every other news headline being about something wrong with the folks that are charged by the people of New York State to do the job. So I can tell you from my perspective, it was individually for me a very exhaustive search, and I was intrigued by the people that were answering the questions and the level to which they asked them.
And yes, Liz, I'm totally confident of Greg Edwards' integrity.
Okay, so